So as I say, good morning everybody, thank you for joining us. Just a couple of admin things. One, it is being recorded, this session. So since you've registered and you've attended, you will get access to the recording if that's something you'll find useful. Sometimes people have had a call in that they can't refuse or whatever, so you've got access to that if you want to. If you wave the mouse over where you can see the video of me talking, you'll have access to some extra buttons that might pop up. So one of them is a chat box. Feel free to type in that chat box any questions or any comments. If you disagree, we always welcome an argument, so feel free to put those comments in there as well. And yeah, obviously our aim from this is to give you as much value as possible, let you know some of the mistakes that we find, what are the consequences that you can probably relate to more of making those mistakes, and then we'll give you some crystal clear actions on what to do to overcome those and to help you take your practice in the way that you want to. This is Emma, who's sitting very pretty next to me. So Emma is a practice growth expert and works very closely. She has worked with several hundred, if not several thousand accountants over the past 20 years within AVN, helping them to improve their practice. So between us, we've got a lot of experience in certainly this area. Right then, so let us begin. The agenda really is we're going to talk through those 7 mistakes. We've actually got a couple of bonuses for you at the end as well. So one particular bonus is going to give you the opportunity to get something for nothing. So more on that shortly. Right then, well, thank you for the people who've joined us in the last few minutes as well. We will start. So mistake number 1. We'll take it in turns reading them out, shall we? Okay. But we've made a list of the most common mistakes. So if you see me looking to my side, it's just I'm referring to the list on there. So really, the common mistake is actually you've forgotten why you set up your business in the first place. And there's an argument to say that the original reasons as well may well have changed since, because some people have just been so sick of an employer that they thought, do you know what, I can do this myself, but actually then other reasons. But ultimately there's a purpose, isn't there, for what you're doing. Certainly what we find is that when we're having these in-depth discussions and just getting people to think about, well, why did they set it up, what's really important to them, that a new sense of purpose starts to come through, which then elicits a sense of drive to actually start to make things happen. That because it's so easy to get into the rut, isn't it? What's your take?
Yeah,
on
that? I think the most common thing that I hear is that people forget that they created the business to work for them, to give them something, and what they've ended up being is being a slave to it. So, you know, they feel they have no control anymore about their lives because they're constantly on this treadmill of keeping the business going. And they've forgotten that the business is there, or was originally set up to give them more choice, more life. You know, we talk about that, don't we? About the choices that we're about AVN, giving people choice. But a lot of people forget that. And I know initially when they went into business, they may have either, like you said, bought a business because they didn't want to be employed anymore, or they may have evolved through a business and eventually become a partner. But they forget that actually there was a reason for that, and part of that was giving them a lifestyle that they wanted, and part of that is the time that they thought they would have more of, the money they would have more of, you know, perhaps the reward emotionally and physically that they thought they were going to get. And what happens is when most people I speak to at the beginning of working with them, they've forgotten all of that and they're just stuck in it, working. And it's like having a job. And for quite a lot of them, they're not even getting paid as much as if they were employed, which is just insane in reality. So I think what happens is that we find that people are not getting financial reward. They're constantly sort of thinking, oh no, I can't afford to pay everything, and often they don't put themselves first either. They'll pay everybody else before themselves. So, and also they work stupid hours. They work, you know, constantly, and that's to the detriment of relationships with a lot of, you know, with their family, friends. You know, and you start cutting yourself off and you start forgetting who you are because you are just your job, which is just like being employed in some places, isn't it? And that's not what the business was for. So I think what happens is that one of the things we try and talk about is making sure that people just stop for a second and think a bit about what they need out of their business now. It won't be the same, like you said, as when they first started it, but what is it that they need now? And create a clear picture of that. And that's really, to me, that's the first action, is write down, what do you need now? And then what do you want in a say 5 years time? Don't think forever, think a period. And then start thinking about, what is the business delivering for you for that? And what we try and work with you is actually then trying to find some key numbers that you can measure for the next 5 years to prove to yourself that you are changing the business and that it will deliver for you, because otherwise you're just such a busy fool, and it's demoralizing for people. I want people to be happy in their job. I want them to enjoy what they do, and so I think that's really, really important.
Just out of curiosity, just type into the chat box and it'll let me know that more people know how to use that as well. Have you achieved what you wanted to achieve by now within your accountancy practice? Are you working the number of hours that you set out to and wanted to when you set that up? Are you taking the number of holidays? Are you, I won't say living the dream, maybe that's a stretch, but ultimately, are you enjoying what you're doing? So there's already a few no's, several no's coming in already. So yeah, as Emma says, and I just want to emphasize that point, I think no. So lots of no's, still aspiring, but on the treadmill, and that's actually the point, isn't it? We almost get onto this treadmill, this rut that we're stuck in. We're doing the same thing, and we've forgotten why we started the business. So
it's good stuff. Actually.
Yeah,
it's true that some of it, you still enjoy it. I'm not saying you don't enjoy your work.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it just ends up being not like Lee's put. You don't get the results that you'd want. I think the other thing, and then this is one of the things I really don't understand, is that so many accountants I speak to don't actually have their own books and records up to date, don't know their own numbers, don't have their own management accounts to understand clear information, because you don't put yourself first, you don't put your business first. And you always talk about the fact that your business is your number one client. And you've got to look after yourself first. You can't look after other people unless you've got a handle on how your own business is doing and how you're doing. So yeah, I think it's really important that you do get a clear picture and you get some clear numbers that you can measure. Yeah,
so the action from this particular one then is just take a few minutes, grab a sheet of paper, or do it on screen, whatever, and just write down, almost take yourself over that mental rainbow, and just say, if anything were possible, what would my perfect accountancy business look like right now? What would it give me personally? What would it be doing for clients? What would my average fees be? All of those types of things. What type of role would you be more involved in? Because actually, I talk to a lot of accountants, and the majority, not all of them, but the majority say, do you know what, I'm sick of doing the compliance work now. And yeah, there is so much more that you can do with your skills as an accountant than producing the compliance work, isn't there? So just think about the role that you'd play and what you'd really love to do. And because that will give you the impetus to start to make some of that stuff happen. Okay, so mistake number 2.
Well, mistake number 2 is that I find that you work for anybody, basically, is that you find, and I know that's natural, because as you grow your business, you're trying to grow your GRF, and so you do take on all sorts of clients. But what you find is that those sort of clients, they don't respect you for the work that you do, and also they're not always profitable. And so again, you become a busy fool because you're trying to get work done and it's not profitable for you. And I think that's quite a common thing that we speak to people about, don't we? So the fact that they're working for anybody, and we're not saying like, perhaps I'm not going down the niche road. I'm saying that actually being aware who your ideal client is, who is the sort of person that you really enjoy working for, because we spend so many hours at work and we want to do so many good things that actually we need to find the right clients to do that with. And if your dream is to have a business where you're offering business growth advice, then you need to be thinking about attracting clients that want that. Yeah. There's no point going down a road of just attracting clients that all they want is a cheap fee, and because then you are just a just churning out work, aren't you? If it's something that when you've just done your dream there of what your ideal practice looks like, and you want to be doing more things with them, you need to be having an idea of how you spot those prospects that will want that sort of work moving forward. So I think it's really important that you think about your best client now, and what you like about them and why they're your best client, and then your worst client, because what really cheeses you off and what's wasting your time, because that's also helpful when you're trying to design who your ideal client profile is. And actually make yourself almost a checklist of the sort of person you want to work with, so that when you meet prospects moving forward, when you want to keep growing your business, you are measuring them against something, not just taking on anybody. You've got like a mental tick box of going, okay, yes, they're open to what I'm talking to them about. Yes, they're going to be able to pay me. Yes, I like this person and I feel like I can work with them. Yes, they are technically savvy, so we can get them onto Xero or QuickBooks or whatever else. So whatever your checklist is, it's really important to have that, because that just helps you be a bit more selective, because by being selective, you're going to get clients that are more profitable and want to work more closely with you.
But it also enables you, well, number one, this sense of exclusivity that you'll then have around your persona, if you like, is that people will want to work with you much more that fit that criteria. It enables you to create a more crafted and very focused marketing message. So even if you're putting stuff on LinkedIn or things like that, it can be very targeted in terms of your language that you use. I was reminded, actually, as Emma was talking, about a recent conversation I had with one of our members. And in fact, it was a podcast interview I was doing. And he was saying that quite often he'll get a phone call in saying, look, I need my tax returns doing. I've had this quote so far. Can you beat it? And the first thing he'll say is, no, I'm not even prepared to. Because if you're looking for cheap, I can point in the right direction of a few other accountants. I'm not cheap, and this is why. And he'll go on to explain the types of things he'll do. And he'll say, look, but this is my price. It'll give you a good feeling when you go off and shop elsewhere. But actually, if you want the value, if you want somebody who's going to do the investigative work and the thorough job, and I'm just talking tax returns here, then give us a call back. And he says, actually, some of those come back to him and say, do you know what? It's not about the price. I would like to talk about what you can do for me. And so he's got that sense of, I'm not desperate to work with you. If you want to work with me, you come back to me. So it's worth being mindful of that. But yeah, absolutely. Just think about, if you've got one client in your client base now that you absolutely love to work with, and I'm talking from a personality point of view, as Emma says, as well as we're not huge fans on encouraging people to go down this route of all in on a niche, because we've seen it happen many times and it's backfired. I think the ones that have got it right have maybe 40% niched. But it's not about the industry so much. It's about maybe a size, maybe a length of establishment, maybe how profitable they are, how willing they are to grow, the ambition, those types of things, I think, are much more important. So again, let's just keep the interaction going. A yes in the box if you've been guilty of just taking any client on that walks through the door and allowing yourself to be negotiated down.
Yeah, I think we're going to get quite a few yeses, aren't we? Because it's
natural. To be fair, and
I
want to put it out there as well, it is very natural when you're starting up and you just need to get some bread and butter income. It is something that you'll do, but at one point do you stop that?
Yeah.
So do you know what I mean? As you're getting established, if you've got to pay the bills, you've got to pay the bills. But you can reach a point then when you can start to be more selective, and then you can almost be out with the old, in with the new, and start to refine your client base. Keith, yeah, you've put used to, but not now. Yeah, that's the road to pain. Totally agree with you there, Noel. It absolutely is, isn't it? Plotting and skeeping behind. Okay, but many of you have put, yeah, you absolutely do that. And as I say, you just run the risk of spreading yourself too thin. Okay, so the action plan, the action from that, as Emma said, is just there are three things that I get to consider. One is the psychology, if you like, or the psychograph, the demograph, and the geograph. So is that right? Have I confused matters there? Yeah. So the psychograph is just think about what the personality of the person is that you want to work with. Demographics is obviously the type of business and the size established. Geographic, now in this day and age, sometimes it doesn't matter where in the UK people are based, but if your preference is that you want to have face-to-face very frequently, then maybe that's important to you. Or it might be that you can do Zoom meetings and this type of technology. It doesn't matter where they're based. So just be mindful of that. Write it all down. And I'm probably cheating a little bit here. It's not in there, is it? No. What you can do to really shortcut the process of increasing your client base to get those types of clients is identify the people who already fit that criteria and then sit down with them and say, look, I love working with you and I want to work with people just like you. And then just explain, this is our ideal client profile, which, as you know, describes you. Who do you know that fits that client profile? Would you please give me a recommendation? So that's a great way of actually increasing your client base of the right type of caliber clients that you want to work with.
Yeah. I've actually been speaking to an accountant, and what he does is on the agenda that he sends out before the meeting, at the bottom he's got a little box that says virtually like that, so that people come prepared, but also they know who he's looking for.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite a good thing. Jan, you've got one of the things I like that about being selective about whether or not they're going to be high maintenance. I think that's a really good point as well when you think about your ideal client, because yeah, some people are, aren't they? And you don't really need them unless you have to have them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Just one last thing on the referrals. I'm conscious I'm already putting us behind time, aren't I? Is there's nothing worse than getting a referral from someone who absolutely isn't your ideal client profile, and you feel obliged to work with them. Otherwise, you'll annoy the referrer or you'll upset them in some way. So the best thing to do there is just be prepared to introduce them to an accountant down the road. Someone maybe that you've checked out that you're happy to refer to them and just say, look, you know, the type of client that we work with, the type of services that we want to deliver aren't right for you, but let me introduce you to somebody that I trust that will look after you well. And that way you're not annoying the referrer, but you're just refining your client base and keeping it in the way that you want it to be. Okay, let's move on to the next one then. Pay for experts to raise their brand and profile and get more clients. So I'm seeing this a lot at the moment. Now, experts have their place by all means, but it can almost be that I'm looking for a shortcut. This is stuff I know I need to do, but I just want to reach out and let somebody else do that. I'll give them all the hassle and they'll get the work for me. But actually, in reality, and I'm not trying to put you off talking to other experts by any stretch, but I suppose the advice I will give is find out what results they actually get. Can they guarantee that they're going to get you results? Because I think there are some things that we have to do that we do find personally difficult and maybe uncomfortable, and it looks like it's a magic wand solution to throw some money at the problem and get somebody else to do it for you. As I say, I would just be very mindful. Your brand, especially the brand side of it, only you can ever do, and the brand is the result of your reputation. I don't think it's something that you can pay somebody else build this brand profile, brand awareness of, because it's probably not going to be an accurate reflection of you in that sense. Likewise with putting stuff on LinkedIn for you. I've seen a lot of people that have tapped into these agencies that say, yeah, we'll keep putting stuff on there, and they're either 100% self-promoting. We do tax returns for clients at low cost, check us out, or did you know that we can do this for you? Did you know that we can do this for you? And that they're not the types of things that are going to get you the work. But I could load up my phone now and look for some accountants, and I'll guarantee that that's the type of content that's going out there. So the best and easiest way of raising your profile, which will generate a lot of interest in you, is if any of your clients just phone you up and say, I've got a query about such and such, use that answer, use that question to put something on LinkedIn and say, I've been asked this question, I just thought I'd share the answer with other people, because chances are lots of people might be thinking it. And what you'll do there, you're giving value, you're showing that you're an expert, you know your stuff, people will start to follow you more and engage with you more, and that will culminate in people saying, you know, I really like the stuff that you're doing. Can you take on more work right now? So I'm not suggesting it's a walk in the park, but just use that type of you know, the questions for your content that you put out there. Any questions on that? I've seen a few things just pop up.
While you're looking at the questions, can I just say that there are lots of very simple ways of getting new clients. It doesn't have to be, you know, a massively time-consuming. And I know, again, a lot of these Magic Wand people, it actually ends up being quite time-consuming for you, because you need to brief them and get them, you know, up to speed and all the rest of it. But there are some really simple ones, and you know, we're constantly creating new resources around this. But one of the things we were talking about the other day is, you know, one of the simplest things is to just look at local businesses, to drive around the business estate you're on, and spot businesses around there you think you might want to work with. Go and Google them, look at Companies House about them, and then just go either email them or send them, or walk through the door with perhaps a folder or a brochure or something that explains who you are, just to start making a contact and talking to people. And even if you're going in and saying, you know, I don't need your accounts, I just want to tell you that I'm local and I do actually business advice, or I do specialist tax information or whatever, you're just, again, making people know, because people quite like working with people who are local to them. It's actually quite nice, because they know they can just go and talk to them because they're across the road, or, you know, across the business estate. So that's quite a nice one. The other thing, which is something that Andrea, one of the other practice growth experts, brought to my attention yesterday, was one of the simple things to do is actually look in the local papers or upon Indeed or whatever about who is recruiting in your area. Because if there are businesses recruiting, then they're probably growing. And if they're growing, then they probably need some advice on how to manage that growth and effectively and profitably, you know. And so they might be good people to just make contact with, whether that's on LinkedIn or, like I said, just by sending a brochure or picking up the phone and just saying, you know, who's the person I need to have a chat with, because I see you growing, and, you know, have you ever looked at our website and all the rest of it. I mean, it is about growing, is about sort of warming up leads. It's not going to happen immediately. People won't say yes immediately, because we know that's not what happens. But there are some very simple things we can do that don't involve you having to spend a huge amount of money, is all I'm saying, really.
Yeah, so I think the outcome, the action from that one is just to create a list of easy actions that you can do to get more prospects. The referral mechanism that I just mentioned to you is incredibly powerful. In fact, most of the people we work with find that that is a great way just to grow their business. They don't need to invest in external people or external resources or anything like that. The power of just asking for referrals. And I suppose an objection to that, which I'm often faced with, is that people say, well, you know, if I'm asking my clients for referrals, does it make me look desperate for work? And I think it depends a lot on how you put that across. And just to say, you know, I love working with you, and I'd love to work with more people like you. And then, as I say, go through that process with them. They don't see it that way at all. And most of the people have grown massively, haven't they, just through asking for referrals. But you've got to ask.
Yeah.
Waiting for someone to think, I know, let me recommend my accountant to somebody else. They, I'm sure, will happen, but they will be fewer and far between. Just to answer your question, Nadine, you asked LinkedIn or Facebook. I would suggest both, or just pick whichever you prefer. You know, if you're quite intensively using one. So, an accountant in Manchester, which if you're on LinkedIn, you'll probably know him by now. He's created such a great reputation. Although his name's completely escaped me at the moment. I'm sure it'll come back to me. But, you know, he just started once a week. He was just putting a quick tip on. He was standing in front of the camera, just a quick tip. And again, it was answering those types of questions. And he's gathered such a following now. One of his videos had 250,000 views from the types of business that he wants to work with. And he says at the end of this, he says, I just did a quick call to action. You know, if you're interested, in fact, he got his own book. So if you're interested in copying my book, I'll post you one out for free. Just put a note in the box below. And yeah, sorry, it wasn't a physical copy. It was a digital copy, thankfully. And he says he had thousands of people wanting a copy of the book. Now, if they got a copy of his book, they're going to be reading that and maybe learning a lot more about him and wanting to work with him. He says he asked decline people now. I'm full. I can't take any more work on. So, it's something that you can do. Anyway, I digress. It's not like me, is it?
So, mistake number 4, which I think we're all a bit guilty of, is doing work for free. And it's just a natural thing. I think I think it's a natural part of who we are as accountants, is we want to get work done. So we often just pick up the things that haven't been done properly and fix them or whatever. And so I think we just need to be a bit more thoughtful about that, and our team to be thoughtful about that, about where are you doing things that actually you didn't agree with your client you were going to do in the first place for the fee that you've agreed. And as part of that as well is being aware yourself about how much advice you give away for free. I know there's that way you get torn between wanting to be the person that people ring and ask for help, and the person, but not actually giving away all those years of knowledge in a one-liner, because how can they value that? You know what I mean? If that's all they see, oh, it just took you 2 seconds to do that, and no, it took you 40 years to be able to do that in 2 seconds, but they don't see that. So I think that's the thing. The other thing that I wanted to also just mention is that what I'm hearing is that a lot more clients, since Making Tax Digital, are asking their accountants to take on more and more bookkeeping work. And it's weird, isn't it? Because several years ago we thought bookkeeping was going to dry out, but it's actually expanding massively. People are going onto cloud software, but they're wanting their accountants to help them do more and more of the work that's involved with it. And I just want to really raise a little point of caution here, because I'm also hearing that what happens then is you take on this work, and this work needs doing because it's regular live information that's needed all the time. But you need to be really careful, because I'm hearing that what happens is you end up using highly qualified people to do bookkeeping, because you're using the team that you've already got to take on that work, and they're being put, and those team that you're paying a really good salary to because they're highly qualified are doing work that's not earning you anywhere near that sort of money. And so it becomes massively unprofitable for you. So I'm just wanting to flag, to me, that's giving work away for free in a way, because you're not making the best use of the team that you have around you. So I just wanted to bring that in.
Well, I'm saying, if I can just add to that as well. when you agree, maybe it's verbally or whatever, a fee with a client, you have a set of expectations in your head as to what you're going to deliver at that. They have a different set of expectations in their head as to what they're going to get for that. And quite often, yeah, they might phone you up through the year, and you might do stuff for them and give them the advice as Emma's just described. And it may get to the end of the year, or a bit later on, you wanting to send them a bill, they might phone you up and say, well, I was expecting that was built into it, and you end up either crashing the price or waiving the fee. And that leaves you feeling really unappreciated and undervalued as well, doesn't it? And I don't think they really value that advice as much, because it was thrown in and a throwaway comment. So one of the things that we help accountants do is create a fixed price agreement. So anytime they give a price, agreement means both people have agreed on that, doesn't it? You're shaking hands on this, and expectations are agreed both sides. So this is what you will get for that, but actually this is what you won't get for that as well. And that's just as important, identifying the stuff that's not included. And then a great way, if somebody phones you up and says, look, can you give me some advice on this, or can you tell me that? Regardless of however many years of experience you've got, if you throw that answer out there and just say, well, this is what you should do, it might have taken you many years to get that knowledge. So a great answer to that is, look, this is something I can certainly investigate for you. Do you know what I mean? And then come back to them and say, look, it's going to take a little bit more work. The fee for doing this investigative work is going to be X. Are you happy for me to continue with that? Is just a better way. And it really positions then what you're doing much more powerfully. Does that make sense? Just give us a yes in the box. I'm conscious I've not had any yeses in the box for a while, but yeah, okay. I
think the other thing is, again, it's like one of the obvious things that people usually ask for on the phone is tax advice. And And that's a great way, something that you can value price, because you can actually say, right, well, this is, tax is quite complex, or I'll go away, look at it, and then you can come back and say, the advice I'm going to give you could save you this much money. I'll do a document that explains all of that, and my fee for that will be 5% of it, or whatever you choose to be. And that's a good way as well, because again, you do want to help people. I'm not saying to stop people, and you don't want people to think, oh, they charge me for everything that they do. But when that advice you're giving them is valuable, they're prepared to pay for it normally. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
If we can explain the value. So I think that's really important. And then the other thing, I think, just again, we've already mentioned it, but don't get drawn into that being competitive on price idea, because then you end up really not only being unprofitable, but causing your team so much stress as well, because they're trying to help hit budgets, and everything else. But if that has been an unreasonable set figure at the beginning, that causes so much other angst within your business as well. So again, just being aligned on that. And then the other thing I thought about with work for free is that, on the sort of flip side of that, is that we don't always look for the potential in our clients.
Yeah, that's true.
So I hear a lot of client accountants, when I say to them, why don't you do this with your clients? They'll go, oh no, they won't have that. But they don't actually investigate that. They don't ask the client. They don't talk about these things. They don't leave they don't explain all the opportunities that they can give. And so you need some way of being able to explain to your clients just the scope of the work that you could do for them, because they see only what you've told them about when you had that first conversation. And unfortunately, as accountants, we go down that route where we want to just problem solve. So we hear something and we go, oh, what you need management accounts, you need going on the cloud, you need this, and you just go straight down that route. And you don't actually then go back, and then that's sort of all they ever see you as being capable of doing.
Yeah.
And you need to make sure that you've also got around you visually and when you talk about explaining all the other things you do, because there's so much potential in our client base. And earlier when we talked about, getting more clients, that's one way of growing your business, but a lot of the time there's a huge amount of potential within your own client base if you just talk to them about what you can do.
Yeah. Just before we move on to the next mistake there, Keith Lawrence makes a really valid point here. Sometimes it's good to intentionally give something away for free, some free work, a 1 hour consultation or a 30-minute or whatever it might be, to demonstrate the possibilities, to demonstrate the value in what you can do. They're really important, and of course to give them some value to take away from that. But in my view, it should be with the intention of, look, if you'd like more of this is the package that we do. Yeah. So
well, I think that's
just
right.
going to get the balance.
Yeah, Keith's made a really important point for us as well. Yes, there's no problem in intentionally giving away free, as long as it is intentional. Yeah. You've made that in your head. You've made that thing that almost it's like a marketing cost. Yeah. You're giving away time, and also that the client understands that you're giving it for free. So it's not just a throwaway. They do understand that you're giving them the value as almost like a gift instead. Okay,
so the next one then is, I think it's all up to them. So everything's on your shoulders. You have to check all of the work. You've got to make sure everything's to the high standard. All of those things. Do you want to expand on that one?
So basically, I think there's two areas here. First of all, that I think we, as the business owners, take on all the responsibility for everything. We don't delegate properly.
There's a control freak element.
Well, there is, there's that. And so often what happens is that you become the bottleneck in your business because you cannot delegate effectively. But also on the flip side, because you feel it's all up to you, that you allow your team to constantly come and ask you for information. You don't. Shane talks about the initiative ladder quite a lot. I'm sure he's done it on other webinars. But you don't get people to make those steps up the initiative ladder and to actually start giving you suggestions of things. You allow them to keep interrupting. You knock on the door, can you fix, can you sort, as opposed to taking responsibility on. And so you're making life so hard for yourself because you've taken on all this additional responsibility. So that's really where I wanted to focus. There's two areas really: you becoming the bottleneck because of the control freak, because of not being able to delegate effectively, and on the second hand, you not encouraging your team to step up and take responsibility.
Yeah, completely agree. I don't think I have more to add on that one. So yeah. Okay, so the action ultimately is about engaging your team, and I'm just trying to think. Let me know if you don't have a copy of my latest book, because there's a massive amount on that chapter on there. So we'll get you a free copy of my latest book, Putting Excellence into Practice, which you'd think I'd have a copy of on my desk, but I don't, which I will wave at you at some point. But yeah, well, as I say, let me know if you've not got a copy of that, and I'll get you a copy through by all means.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a big subject.
It is. It's massive, isn't it?
About delegating properly, and also you having confidence to delegate properly. So that's a big subject. Okay. We could be all day on that, so we'll move on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, Nadeem, for that comment.
Oh.
I always welcome nice comments about my book, so keep them coming in.
There we go.
Right, okay, yeah, well, we'll get those. The latest book is called Putting Excellence into Practice, Joanne. So, okay, well, I've got the... so I got a lull from... Oh, it's two attendees anyway. Right, then. Okay, so the next one, then, is focus on the outcomes, not... Yeah, do you think that should be focused on the features, not the client experience? Or you expand on that?
I'll accept. So my next one is that I came up with was actually you focus on the outcomes rather than the client experience.
Oh,
so as accountants, we are naturally thinking, all right, we need to deliver the accounts, the tax return, the management accounts, whatever, and we focus, and the team are focused purely on getting the work done by whatever time scale is driving that. And we often get so focused by the technical part of it that we don't think about how the client is experiencing that. And it's only through their experience that they can evaluate us against another accountant in reality. And it's how we ever judge anything is about how the experience. If we go out for a meal, yes, the food is important, but normally it's about how the waitress has been with you, how you got seated, how they took your order, the whole experience makes it a great thing. And that's how we value stuff. And so it's the same with the work that we do. We need to constantly be thinking about how does the client experience this? So when we're doing stuff, like for example, if we're trying to get books and records in, how do we make that a nice experience where they feel it a pleasure to bring stuff in on time for you? I know that sounds amazing, doesn't it, if we could get that happening? But there are ways, because people start thinking actually they understand that by doing things there is a consequence that's pleasurable for them. So I think what we need to think about again is when you do stuff, particularly with your team, when they do stuff, what does the client see? Because again, we do so much back office stuff that the client never sees, and so how can they value it? Because it's a bit like like you said, when your car goes for an MOT, I have no idea what they do in the MOT, and so how can I equate the cost of doing an MOT in one garage against the cost of another MOT?
Yeah, and it can be as little as, you take your car for the MOT, they want you to stand out of the way so you're not irritating them and asking questions and getting in the way. But they've usually got some really oily seats for you to sit on, or you end up walking around or something like that. Whereas you'd probably choose the one that's got a nice seated area, do you know what I mean? Maybe a bit of Wi-Fi or something like that. Little thing like that might just be the deciding factor as to who you're going to take your car to.
Yeah.
And it's just that experience, isn't it? So
I mean, the common thing, isn't it? It's like when we go to accountants practices, just actually reception.
Yeah.
There's a variety of receptions about how welcoming people are in them. How dingy or bright they are. And it's those first impressions, it's that experience that people judge you on. It's one of these standard jokes that, one of these things about judging people by the state of their toilets, isn't it?
Yeah.
And actually that does happen, and it's those little things that just sort of pass us by because we're so focused in the outcome, in just delivering the product that we've sold, as opposed to the experience that actually what the true thing that we're selling to people.
Yeah, and the consequence of that is that people will pay for the experience that they have over and above feeling that they're just getting the bog standard work done. You know, whenever I visit some of the accountants that we work with that are really, they've improved everything around their practice. I'll get the email that comes through that gives me the map and the nice directions and things like that. And as I arrive, there's a nice sign on the car park that says reserved for Shane. You walk into reception, there's Bloggins and co-accountants welcome Shane, and the person on reception knows who you are. They greet you. They remember how you had your drink last time. They'll give you a drinks menu. There's all sorts of those things, and it's just plotting out every single step in a prospective and a client's journey from working with you, right from the first time they discover you, which might be on the website, it might be on Yale.com or Google, or maybe you're listed on Find an Accountant in Xero, or what are the things saying about you there, right through to that first meeting, and then right through to the working arrangements. And it's a great exercise just to sit down and just think about, well, what are all those steps? And then whether it's a post-it note exercise, just writing little ideas on there and mapping them to that area, what are the things that you can do just to enhance the value of that customer journey throughout, and then systemize it. And that's really the action that's written down on here. Get this into a system so that it happens every single time for every single person, so that experience. Because the worst thing about raising the standards is when you let them slip on that one occasion, they're going to remember that much more.
But don't put that off raising standards, because you're going to fail. You've got to do it anyway.
Yeah,
I think,
yeah.
And I think you're right. That even as something as simple as, when clients are coming in to see you, what is your meeting room like? Do you offer them tea and coffee? Have you got a really nice feedback form at the end so that actually they can comment on their experience, so that you can always improve? It's that giving them that, making them feel like they've got an opinion about it is also really useful. So, but like Shane says, systemize it. Make sure that your team are aware that this has to happen every time.
Yeah, I mean, the other side of it, of course, is that it may be that I've known accountants that have just erected a big shed at the bottom of their garden, and maybe they don't want clients coming to them and visiting them at home. But how can you make the experience really high, even if you visit them at their office? Or maybe you have a book a meeting room by the hour place. What can you do to make sure the experience is really high, even meeting at that neutral venue?
Yeah.
So don't feel, well, because I work from home or whatever it is, that I can't do some of this stuff. But there are always different ways. So just map out that entire customer journey and think about what are the things that you can do to improve that. My book's now arriving. Thank you very much. It's hiding from the camera, but thank you. That's the book. If you've not got it yet, that's my little ad. Yes, it's my latest book. And if you want a free copy of that, let me know, and we'll get you one out there. So I think some of you have already let me know. Okay.
So the final one that I think is that often one of the mistakes you make is that you forget that you make a difference out there. I think what happens is that often we go home and we're tired and we feel unfulfilled because we've been on this treadmill, and it's hard to feel like you've had a day where you've achieved a huge amount. But actually the reality of it is that you are making a difference all the time. By giving that advice, by helping people have the right numbers, all sorts of things. And you're not just making a difference to your clients, you're making a difference to your team. You're employing them, you're helping them grow and develop, you're giving them all sorts of experience and opportunities. And then there's people who are obviously making a difference. You're making a difference to your family because you're bringing, home whatever rewards, as long as you've got that balance right. And I think what we forget to do is we forget to write down that we make a difference. And it's really easy for us to focus on the things we haven't achieved as opposed to the things that we have. And I have to admit, for a very long time, I was guilty of that. And I just started creating in my little diary. I write down the 3 things that I need to have achieved today. No more than 3 things that I need to have achieved today. And I try and make them small things as well, not a big project, because you can't get that all done, but a small thing. And then I write down in a different colour pen all the extra things that I've managed to do in the day. People I've spoken to where I know I've made a difference because, I've helped them think about something differently. Something that I've created that might help somebody else be able to deliver something better in the future, a system, a checklist, a form, something. You know, it can be all sorts of things, but you need to remind yourself that you are making a difference, because your self-worth is really important. As the leader of the business, the way that you are and the way you feel about yourself affects the mood of everybody around you, because you are the leader. And therefore you need to keep reminding yourself you're doing a great job. You know, you are making a difference. Small things sometimes, but sometimes it can be big things. And we've recently had the AVN Awards, and it's been phenomenal. I mean, it's been humbling to hear people have written the stories about what they've done in their businesses, what they've done for their clients. And a lot of the time, it's not like they've done anything outside the norm in reality of what an accountant would do. You know, they've helped somebody deal with HMRC, they've helped somebody sort out their tax, they've helped somebody manage their numbers better so that they could make informed decisions about what they were going to do with their business or their life. They've helped somebody work less hours so that they could go into their child's sports day. They've helped somebody be able to make enough profits to help a charity that they're passionate about. Whatever it is, they're not massive things, but together, they've made such a difference to the client and to the world in general that you should remind yourself that you're doing these things. And so for me, the real action is to write those stories down. Don't forget about them. Record them. Even if, I mean, Shane uses like, or even just on your phone, where you just talk to your phone and make a little note. I just help somebody do something. And then just get it transcribed somewhere and have it a little log of these things. Because some days you do get to the end of the day and you just feel, do you know what, that was such a waste of a day. And it's really good to go back and read, you know, the few things that perhaps you did last week that you think, oh yeah, actually that was quite good. I did something nice or something. Because you do need to keep looking after yourself and do some stuff, you know, that's important to you.
Yeah, I mean, well, both Keith and Ellen make good points there. Ellen, it is all too easy to come up with a to-do list of stuff you've got to do, but yeah, you forget about the stuff that you've already done. I think it really is important to do this stuff. I think as an accountant, you are changing lives on a regular. Even if you save somebody a bit of tax, what have they been able to do with that? You know, you're making a profound difference to people's lives on a regular basis. And I think it can be easy just to forget about that aspect and just focus on getting the deadlines met and getting the stuff out. You do make a profound difference to people's lives. And yeah, you should record that much more.
And I think it's things, again, simple things that we just think, okay, we're doing. So, for example, if you've taken on somebody's bookkeeping and payroll and you talk to that client and you think about how much time they would have spent on that before and the stress it gave them because they didn't know really what they were doing, and the fact that, you know, they were perhaps doing it in the evenings when they should have been with their family, or, you know, they've had issues with team turnover because they haven't managed payment properly. And if you've helped with all of that, what a difference have you made to that client, but also those clients' employees, you know, and their suppliers and their customers, because you've helped them manage that better. So it's about just rethinking about the value of what we do a little bit more, you know, just being more positive about what we do, because we do some really fantastic stuff for people.
Absolutely. Right, so they are the 7 mistakes. Now, we've got a couple of bonuses. One is we've actually got 8 mistakes. So bonus number 8 is, I'll read it.
Yes, that's fine. Yeah, you take on this one.
It's the procrastinating over stuff that we know that we should do, or chasing the next bright shiny object. And I suppose to some degree we kind of touched on this with the experts, didn't we? You know, sometimes we might put off doing something that we know we need to do ourselves, or and I'm seeing, I don't mean this to sound like a dig, but I'm seeing a lot of people now spending more time looking for a piece of software that will do something for them. Do you know what I mean? Or something difficult to articulate now. There's a lot of, I'll tell you what, the example that comes to my head, it's taken a while to get there. I don't know whether I should name them or not. A software provider has approached me recently who they provide a piece of software for accountants that is a great tool for prompting business advisory type discussions. And lots of people have been buying it, but they haven't then been using it effectively. And I think sometimes we might think, oh, it's a bright, shiny object. It's going to help me deliver this type of service to clients. But then they put off having those types of discussions that come with it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I think what we tend, I don't know why I'm saying does that make sense all the time, but I think we're hoping that some of these experts or these pieces of software are just going to alleviate ourselves from having to have certain types of conversations that will ultimately lead to more work and more enjoyable types of work as well. So what are the things that you can do to overcome that? Well, I think just be mindful that there is a balance between how much you should be looking online for the next piece of software and actually just working out, well, what do you need to do to really to make whatever it is that you need to make happen. Having goals in place is going to help you stay focused, because we can easily get digressed, can't we? And just accepting what's the type of training that you might need. What is it that you need to get in place to help you make stuff happen? I don't think I've worded that very well. Do you want
I agree with you. No, I agree with you. I think that there is a tendency to sort of think that software will help us avoid having conversations and will do work for us. And I think what we need to be doing is also looking at whether or not that software is actually needed. We have a lot of processes and things that we've sort of evolved over the 40 years, say you've been in practice, or 20 years, or the 5 years, however long you've been learning, you sort of evolve practices. And this is the perfect time now, because of everything that's out there, to just stop and think, are we doing this the best way? You know, just because we've always done it this way doesn't mean we need a piece of software that replicates what we've always been doing. What we actually need to do is think, should we be doing it differently? And sometimes, yes, that can involve software, because software can make things easier in some areas, but sometimes it could just be stop doing some stuff, or do it more effectively and with having the training. And I think we need to be really careful when we go for that bright, shiny object to realise that, and particularly with software, is not only is there the cost of the software, but the time and the cost of training and implementation can be huge. And it's such a big change for your team. You need to know that you've made the right decision, because it's really hard to get your whole team on board to take on a new piece of software. You know, if you've brought in a new CRM system and you're trying to get your team to use it, you know, I don't know, can you remember when we were trying to convert everybody from, say, the old Sage to Zero? How, you know, there was a lot of challenge as a team about that, because it looked different, it feels different, and so you've got to be aware of that. So if you're going to make that, I think one of you has made a point about this, you need to think of it strategically. You need to think, you know, I know it's bright and shiny, but strategically, does this fulfill something, and will it fit in the plan for my team to evolve it? Or is it just a bit of glue? Do you know what I mean? Where I'm spending a lot of money for a piece of glue that's not actually fixing it, it's just holding it together at the moment. But at some point it's probably going to break apart again. Yeah. And so thinking about that's really, really important. And we are massive procrastinators as a natural thing as human beings to do things. And the only thing, goals I think is a great thing. But the other thing I think is really important is have somebody who can hold you accountable. So whoever that is, preferably not somebody too close to you, because you don't want rows things. But to have somebody who you could talk about this stuff to, and who can hold you accountable and actually remind you that why this stuff is important, why you should keep going on it, and to hold you accountable. So if you see a bright, shiny object, ask those questions that you don't really want to be asked, to be honest, because you just want to go for a bright, shiny object, but makes you stop and think about things and think about it strategically. So please find somebody who will be that sort of support for you, because I think that's really important.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Emma. That's been great. Has this been valuable to you? Just give us a yes or a no. We don't take offence in the chat box. Has this been a valuable session to you? Good. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's fantastic. What we'd like to do is give you the opportunity to maybe have a conversation with, you know, we're both practice growth experts. We have a team of practice growth experts as well. there might be stuff in your head. I mean, some of the things have been put in as comments as well. It might be that you've got some extra questions or challenges that you'd like to discuss. So we're offering a 15-minute strategy time session, really, aren't we? Where you can have a conversation, ask any questions. It's not a sales type of thing. We're not going to try and sell you anything. There's no strings attached. If that's something that you'd like to do, just pop a yes in the box.
And then we can send you a link to book a time that works for you, really, because obviously it's around you that's important. That's
right, yeah. So, as I say, put a yes in the box if you'd like a 15-minute discussion where you can throw any question you like at us, and we'll give you some sound recommendations that you can take away and implement in your practice. So, quite a few of you have said yes, so that's fantastic. What we'll do, I mean, I'll put a link in the box now, which will give you the opportunity to seize up the earlier places for that. And then we'll follow up this webinar with an email with that as well. I've lost my link, so I'm just going to copy it again and stick it in there. Right now, just last time I did this, I forgot to make it to all the attendees, so nobody got the link. Right, okay, so if you either click on that link now or at least copy and paste it, because it'll disappear when this is finished. What I'd like to do is just leave you on a high with the knowledge that you can make a difference. And this wasn't planned, so hopefully I'll be able to just do this. But at our conference, Val Wishart, who won the AVN shared win, actually, AVN Firm of the Year award for Most Inspiring Accountant. Sorry, yes, won the award for changing lives. Now, I've not got the footage from the conference for that yet, but I did interview her just beforehand, and she shared with me a story. So it's entirely optional whether you want to stay on for this, but it's about 3 minutes, and I'll just play this video for you. And it was, as I say, part of a podcast interview. So yeah, 3 minutes 35 seconds. So if you'd like to watch that, I'm going to put it on now. I'll click the wrong button. That one. And I need to click that. And I think you just finish this session on a nice high. Thank you very much for that feedback, Leo. And yes, we'll get you booked in. So as I say, click on that link and you can book in. And I'm just going to share this video with you now. Hopefully the sound will come through okay. Please be kind enough.
Yeah, so she runs one of the businesses I was talking to you about earlier, one of the online retail businesses. And it's a great business. And her problem at the start when we first met with her was that she didn't have any information. And she had one of these previous accountants that was terrible. They gave her absolutely no information, too late, and because it's an online retail business that has Christmas as its focus, cash flow is hugely important to them, because it's a question every year of, will we make it to Christmas when the money's going to come in? And she had no way of figuring that out, nothing at all. So the first thing we did with her was sit down and help her to figure that out. So we looked at her monthly trading, we looked at her costs, we looked at her cash flow for her, and we helped her figure out that she actually had enough money to make it through to Christmas this year, and that she could take on the people that she needed to take on to make the Christmas sales happen. So the first bit was she just was so relieved that she actually had information for once in her life that would help her take her through to the next year of trading and help her with her growth in her business. So that was the first bit. But we were chatting one day in a meeting, and our meetings are with our clients are very much about how are you doing, what's going on, you know, how's life, sort of thing. And she actually started to get quite emotional and told me that her son was having problems at school. He had been diagnosed with being autistic, and he was being bullied at school. And the day before, sorry, it makes me well up as well. The day before, he'd actually come home with bruises all over his face. And I managed to not well up when she was telling me this, but she was so upset about it that I thought, we've got to do something to help you. And I asked her, what's the solution to this? And she said, I need to move him into a private school where they've got special help for kids like him. But she said, I can't afford it. And I said, well, let's figure out if you can afford it. So we'd been looking at her cash flow for the year, and we hadn't actually got around to looking yet at how she was paying herself out of the business. And we just looked at that and realised that she was paying a lot of tax and that she could be set up differently. And we set about actually doing that for her. And we managed to save her actually more than the money that it would cost in school fees just in tax, just by looking at that for her. And the look on her face when I said we could do that was, I'll never forget it. And she just looked at me and she burst into tears and said, I'm so grateful. I can't actually believe it. And sorry. And she went home and made that decision that she was going to take her son out of school, booked him into the private school, and she phoned me the next day and she said, I actually slept last night. That's the first night I slept in Beard. So, yeah, it was a good story, and yeah, it makes me emotional as well, Shane.
I want to share that with you. I think you'll agree that everything that Val did there is any accountant can do for any of their clients. Accountants do and can make a profound difference. And I just wanted to leave it on that. So thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you very much for your feedback and your interaction as well. Very much appreciated. And all of you who said you're interested in that, we'll make sure that happens. So all the best, everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, Joanne says I'm blubbing now too. I know, I'm very close to it myself.
Right. All the best, everybody. Have fun.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.